bigger focus on going towards the AD carries or moving more into the jungle. We have now dropped that Wukong ban that we saw in game 1 in favor for Gwen. In my mind, this does tell me we're moving into tanks. We're going to be looking at things like the Cassante. We're going to be looking at things like the Sion and the Ornn. Whether or not that is going to be available for LGD. And in the first pick, I mean, JDG, they still haven't gotten rid of the Yone that we saw from them. There it is.
Exactly what I was thinking. I think they were debating it as well. With how long that took, are we banning Yone going into game 2? Are we going to use this on something else? Given the fact that Wukong wasn't banned, I love the pickup here. I don't even like it. I love it.
Why do you love Wukong?
I love the pick. Wukong, I would...
Why do you love the pick then, Dia? You don't like Wukong? You don't like some monkey love?
I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm feeling uncomfortable.
Okay.
Now I have to defend myself too much.
Yeah.
Annie's been picked. Talk about the Annie pick.
Classic Twitter analyst over here. He gets a pushback.
Oh my god.
Get blocked. So Annie will mean that Scout will have a bit of an easier matchup. And just point and click, I think it simplifies the game plan, which was a big question coming into this series and how JDG were going to perform. Can we maybe remove some of the mechanical burden from Scout and give him something that is going to simplify the game plan here for JDG?
Thinking, I didn't even know you could hover champions.
Oh yeah, they're not like actually banned. It's more like a superficial side of the game ban.
Yeah, I figured.
All right, games, can we fix the client? It's okay. Fearless can be something soon.
Xin Xiao pick that does keep us within the top 3 most played picks for Xun, which is still going to be a quite comfortable place. Do we want to go strong solo lanes here? That's an interesting question, especially because mid lane isn't secured yet. You could counterpick the Annie, but
I mean, Mbessa's gone, so of the top laners that Xiaoxu has been playing, I think Cassante, Renekton in particular are not going to have the greatest time into Yorick early. And if you're going to pick a tank, you're going to be opting into a Sion. For me, what I see from LGD is that they're kind of maybe inviting this kind of play. And none of the champions that they have really deal well with someone that's going to have 4,000, 5,000 HP. So they're going to be very reliant on making side lane plays and making sure that their solo laners can collapse in towards objectives.
I wonder, because of the lack of being able to shred tanks, whether we see something that maybe Xiaoxu wants to play. He actually did really well on the Cassante into Yorick matchup a few days ago. That could be something to look out for here, but they're considering picking him up something else. At least locking in a top lane here, not a terrible idea, and then it's going to get picked up. So Renekton into Yorick, maybe not as Xiaoxu styled as I would have liked, as Cassante has looked really good this season, but we get to keep it for later in the year.
I gotta say, Dia, if we had ministrations about JDG's draft in game 1, I think LGD have a really strong first opener here. I mean, the matchup top lane should be fine for them to be able to handle. You're going to be playing a rather short-range composition into Taliyah and Wukong. I don't know how Renekton plays this game once we get out of the laning phase versus Taliyah, so they're going to need something from AD carry and support that really warps the game or kind of flips their idea of how to play, because they have a strong haymaker to start, but that consistent damage starts to fall off as the fight goes longer.
There's a pretty nice game to be had here for both Sivir and Kai'Sa as well for LGD. Dealing with the Annie from Scout is going to be naturally a part of any short-range AD carry's life, but both those champions are able to deal with it in different ways. Kai'Sa, of course, a lot of mobility, and Sivir, spell shield, smile.
It's about whether or not they'll actually gain enough space to get that Sivir. The Kai'Sa is way easier. You can go invisible. You can literally teleport yourself to another side of the fight if you really need to. We're getting Yunara banned, so the fact that JDG are not prioritizing this champion is really worrisome to me because you have such a talented marksman player in Peyz. So a lot of support focus. I think this ends up hurting YCX, who has been more of a unique support specialist necessarily than playing our traditional engagers like Leona and Rakan.
I see the logic behind the Corki ban. I don't necessarily think that it's going to be the greatest impact here, but now you're deciding really what AD carries you want to go with. You can defer that decision, especially because you get one of either Sivir or Kai'Sa should you wish it. I know I'm really focused on those AD carries. Should I be thinking about somebody else here?
From JDG side, honestly, I really like Jhin. I don't know why I've been on a Jhin kick, but I just think having the Deadly Flourish available to you gives you so much access to be able to play on multiple different lanes, or at least have that range to be able to interact with your opponent. And I gotta say, nobody from JDG can deal with Talia right now. Like,
Yeah.
if Annie gets that burst down, if she get that Tibbers and kind of surprise factor, that just means that vision is going to be very important, as we've noted throughout the series. But
Yeah.
if you're looking at each other and you're going face to face, front to back, I really like what LGD now have. You have a Rel to be able to slow down the fights alongside that Wukong, and that AD carry that you were focusing on so heavily, it's going to be that Kai'Sa coming on through for LGD.
And I'm a really big fan of the fact that they end up picking up Kai'Sa, especially because they deny the backline access that Kai'Sa might otherwise have to help take out Talia. Sivir, the natural lock-in on the other side, it was building up to a, we're going to trade these 280 carries, so it makes sense to see this picked up for Peyz. Key players in this game, absolutely. I think we're looking towards mid lane, as you were illustrating. What can Annie do? What does vision control for JDG look like? And on the other side of that, kind of like we were talking about Peyz last game, can anyone touch XQW?
I gotta say, man, this draft is terrible from JDG. Like, if they can get the first punch, awesome. But you're not going to consistently or reliably be able to do that in a lot of instances. And if I think about theoretical team fights, if we get locked down onto Savior, he goes invisible, he can ult away. You're going to have Talia wall and her Unraveled Earth, and you have to walk through as Sivir. And then you talk about how short range this comp is, not just the Talia, but how do they ever deal with a Yorick who's level 11 and has an item and a half or two? How are they dealing with Wukong ult, who is obliterating and making it impossible for Sivir to ever stand tall and let those auto attacks fly? I think this is really problematic for JDG, and if they win this game, I have to imagine this is a 3-0. I have to think that if they can overcome some of the hurdles that they'll get through this draft, I don't think anything that LGD throw at them is going to be meaningful.
Especially because between 10 to, I'm going to call it 17 minutes, at least last game, and I'll say in series past, we've seen Xiaoxu largely left alone. And if you're leaving somebody alone with Yorick for an extended period of time, they're not going to get the same value as, say, Rumble was last game. But that is going to have to hold on, because in these next few minutes, we're going to be finding out a whole lot more about how these teams play against each other for Game 2 of JDG versus LGD. They're cheering.
Yeah, it's for the JDG fans. The LGD fans are not to be spotted here, unfortunately. There's one person, I saw them, other fan signs, but it's tough. It's tough being an LGD fan, and honestly, that has kind of been the state of fandom in the LPL in more recent times. It's been tough to root for a lot of the smaller teams or non-Group Ascend teams because they have just less games to be played. I mean, we were talking about it during the pre-show, but JDG have played upwards of like 150-something games. LGD have barely half of that. So it's tough. It's tough to be able to build fandom when you're having so few games, and some of the opponents you're playing against, like an LNG or even an Ultra Prime, don't exactly draw on the same level of fight.
This early sweeper from Shun takes out some vision, and actually will be pretty nice to be able to surprise people with his jungle pathing a little bit later on. There's no additional vision that gets placed by LGD, so his clear should go relatively uninterrupted. And just like last game, we'll keep our eyes on these junglers who can have an early impact, especially the Sin Zone.
Alright, so he is starting Wolves, which does mean that he's going to be able to cycle his camps a little faster than his opponent. And with Climber already going through his red buff, potential for both our junglers to end up topside, but I just don't see it as an angle.
Engaging Peyz at level 1.
I mean, this support matchup bot lane is really miserable. Like, anytime Rel wants to go in with a crash down, Alistar can knock her up with his Q. You can do that, so you get none of this, and then YCX is essentially left out to dry. And one of the things that I want to talk about with Sivir, and I always try to get to if we can, is that a lot of people have this misconception that Sivir is purely a late game champion, that all she does is clear waves and she can't really duel in the early game. But when you have access to the boomerang blades, especially in the early lane, if you're stacking on the minion wave, this champion actually becomes a really, really potent duelist early on. So if they can kind of continue to make these trades, I think that JDG are going to feel really, really powerful in this laning phase.
That they are absolutely continuing to do. Bounced back into the turret. YCX takes a tremendous amount of damage, but it's the mid lane where Shun, our MVP from game 1, picks up first blood.
There we go, and he does it on the way of his camps. He did 3 camps bottom side, made a trek into mid. I want to watch again how XQW ended up losing his flash. They're going to get a kill here. Oh my god.
Peyz does take a pretty hearty chunk. The health bars are low on both sides. Shwo engaging with pretty reckless abandon. Now missing flash himself, though. Does make this a little bit riskier. This savior that has all summoners up, the only member of the bot lane to do so, and playing pretty safely, I bet.
Alright, so picture in picture, how did XQW lose his flash? Oh.
And thus it
went. Oh, God. XQW, my brother. We can't be doing that. We cannot be doing that in this matchup. But Annie does allow for the enemy team to play with a little bit more proactivity. You have a point-and-click stun before level 6, and then once you get access to the ultimate, it does make it a little bit easier for you to find that range. So, a good opening start here for JDG.
And a question will be, how do you convert that as JDG? You've gotten the initial kill. If you're able to consistently deal with Taliyah in this way, you've answered one of our big questions from the draft. Right now, like we were talking about, that early cycling of camps by Shun already kicking off. Wolves have respawned, and he is off to the races.
To note, Shun does get his early camps, but for me, what I'm looking at right now is double scuttle completed for LGD. So Climber is going to have a little bit more gold. He's a little bit ahead in terms of XP as well. So once he gets down to this bottom side and starts to cycle his camps up, I imagine once he does a second full clear, he's actually going to be really close to hitting level 6. So might make a pit stop in one of these lanes to get him over to that break point just that much quicker.
Quick roam from YCX is available up to the mid lane as you take a deep breath approaching this dragon spawn. We saw some lane swaps happening last game around this timing. Might be coming in again, depending on where the priority lies for these teams around first dragon. With JDG having the amount of pressure they already have with bot lane, you're seeing the early Sivir power pay off like you talked about.
Kai'Sa cannot, all Kai'Sa's going to do is just catch these waves. That's all she can do in this early stage right now. Doesn't have any items. Wonder if we're going to be seeing Static Shiv. I doubt it with the prevalence of Kraken Slayer and just how strong some of the items. Item economy is really, really important, especially for a champion like Peyz. So seeing how an LGD, and where LGD kind of finds spots to get these luxury items is going to be really, really pivotal in my mind. But not too much action in the early game. It was a single kill from Shun. I can't imagine there's going to be much doing here. I mean, Peyz has a spell shield that blocks at least one half of YCX's combo. So how LGD, again, can leverage this Sivir in mid-game especially, it is so easy for them to throw down a boomerang blade, wipe away an entire mid-wave, and then move in for priority with the jungle.
Priority perfectly mentioned right there as Shun went on the invade. Ults traded up top side as Xiaoxu does get a big chunk. Likely not going to find first blood here, as Sasi does still have flash, but Shun's waiting for him. A dive potential. Sasi backs off immediately after helping out with Shun. Again, flash available for Shun, but Xiaoxu's going to go for it first, right on top of Climber. Shun gets executed by the Yorick, and Sasi, hoping to finish off Xiaoxu, has the Maiden to help him out, and secures a double kill topside.
Shun way too aggressive there, and very close margins found by the top jungle of LGD. Sasa playing on the very edges there, waiting for his HP, and really for me, what I'm looking at, whenever you're playing against Yorick, you have to kill the Maiden. The Maiden is the game changer, is essentially an entire free champion similar to like an Ivern and his Daisy. So the fact that we didn't see JDG focus that turns into 2 free kills going over to them, and you can see how close this was. Sasa ends up using the ultimate in the middle of this fight, and something we didn't touch on in draft, and we'll see the impact of it later, is the Dark Perception. Having that little baby cage on a mobile champion like a Sivir or even an Annie could make or break someone's parts of these fights.
Certainly made this one just a little bit harder. I love that Sasa ends up going in for the heal, and then later on realizing, wait a minute, we can win this fight. He keeps Xiaoxu, the baby cage, in the same place for just a little bit too long. And a double kill for Yorick could very quickly warp this game.
We'll have to see. He does have Bramble Vest, which does disincentivize Xiaoxu from looking for any plays. LGD now playing a little bit around their mid laner, and what I'm going to watch to see, XQW now having the Weaver's Wall. Can he find a way to section off a portion of the fight? They're playing towards the bottom side of the map, but they're not going to have Kaisa. This is a full commit from JDG with 5 members in topside river.
Xiaoxu is dying to Maiden in the meanwhile. It's a very difficult gank to pull off again. Void Grub priority is difficult to justify right now, especially because LGD know this is happening, but Shun's started it anyway, and Scout playing point guard at the moment might be able to keep LGD at bay with the threat of an anti-engage. Climber's not ready for this just yet. Will end up finding his blue buff intact, but the amount of time that JDG have bought enough to secure at least 2 of the Void Grubs.
Yeah, Annie just teleported out of this. This is JDG's window to say, okay, we're going to recall. That is a Tibbers that has gone wide. That is why Savior does not get stunned. That was a wave and a half. They are missed by JDG that Annie will have to collect on the back end. Does mean that Savior gets a little bit of alone time, some solo gold there. And they don't even finish the club. They're trying to invade and push Shun out of the jungle.
Escape here. Whoa. Playing a little greedy with the flash, but will end up having to invest it. Smartly ultimately used it. LGD get a camp off this, but I'd still say this is a play significantly in the favor of JDG since they got 2 of the 3 grubs.
Yeah, and LGD never finished this objective. So immediately JDG, they're going to move into the bottom side. Joe's going to come out of base, fully healed up, and be in position. Whether or not LGD invests a teleport, in my mind, is kind of going to make it, but Climber's still fishing topside camps. JDG are going to get early grubs. They're going to get this first dragon of the game. Everything is going right for them at this point. And they're gonna be in a very good spot later in this game to start to take all of these turns and get themselves a piece of strength.
And I'm a really big fan of the fact that they make use of Scout's teleport. It doesn't just save the plate gold that would have gone to Savior, but it immediately turns into the dragon as well. Yes, Xiaoxu is suffering in the top side, but Xiaoxu can suffer for a while.
If this is suffering, I want to suffer some more when I play top. Brother is up 30 CS.
Oh my god, he's up 30 CS.
Look, if I'm suffering, like, look at mid lane. I'm up 20 right now. Hell yeah. Again, suffering from success right now. It's the only relevant DJ caliber you're going to get from us tonight.
I mean, the matchup may not look fun, but the numbers don't lie.
So, right now, it's up to LGD. How can we break this gameplay? They're going to have important item spikes coming on through. Climber's not yet there at that Trinity Force power spike, but I imagine on one item, this LGD team is going to feel really empowered to try to fight their opponents early on at least.
Let's see what kind of engages Climber is able to make once he does have that increased confidence, as Wukong can seriously mess up and disrupt a lot of the engages that JDG will otherwise be throwing. Critical to note here, I'm not going to talk about it too much unless it becomes crazy relevant, but Shuo on Alistair was something that I was excited for at the start of the day. I'm happy to see it picked up now. This could be one of Shuo's best games. Again, we'll talk about it more later as it becomes relevant. Right now, it's the fight of revision.
Okay, all right, there we go. You got to be careful with the Joel Glaze, because he's been a player that has had a lot of whoopsies, not only on JDG, but back on LNG when we saw him play in Group Nirvana. So a player that we weren't necessarily expecting to join this team, especially mid-season here, but past some early game clubs, has been playing okay. Perhaps we're going to take an early trade. It's just setting them up to finish these grubs, which still have not gone down. I'm sure Sun's like, what the hell, this objective is still here? All right, that's free experience.
Let's end up taking out the Maiden. This could be big to set up a dive, and the rest of LGD know it. Committing YCX up to the top side. We're finally finishing off the grubs. At long last, the grub will join the rest of his family.
This is an important spike. We talked about first items. We're seeing that Peyz finishes the Yuntals. This was shown with the Sundered Sky already coming on through, and Climber with that Trinity Force does feel a bit empowered. Maybe if they can time this with Savior getting what looks to be a Kraken Slayer. I mean, Dragons, we don't have really an objective for the next 2.5 minutes. I feel like LGD have either mistimed how they've gotten some of their resources. That is just a misplay.
Or a mistiming. I'm
Either
sorry.
way,
I was just hearing mistime.
I wish I missed a lot of this play visually. It's going to turn into JDG stealing camps, and XQ doesn't even get to touch this bottom lane wave. That is really big. I love the aggression that we're seeing from JDG early here.
Good caution is LGD want to try and cut this off. Weaver's wall instead takes them to safety. But the boop back in on Scout, and a huge engage out of YCX does change things in a bad way for JDG. Should finishes off a fight in the back line, finally taking down XQW, but gets double killed in return. Climber grabbing that one, and ultimately a winning fight for LGD.
I think I have temporarily, I think I have the blindness too right now. What am I watching, guys? Like, remember, these are multiple players who have been able to go to Worlds multiple times, including Xiaoxu. But, like, the setup for this play just feels so bankrupt in my mind. Like, we're waiting for Sivir. We have Dwo, who kind of mispositions in certain parts of that fight. XQW wastes his flash because he exits on the wrong side of the Weaver's wall. I mean, we can take a look at this again. There's no headbutt available for the Alistar, okay? XQW is in questionable spots. They like so much time. This is what we were talking about from draft. Rel plus Wukong. How does Sivir get to fight? We saw Peyz immediately. He books it. He's out of that fight immediately. And there's just no damage there afterwards coming in for JDG.
That is the tough part. I mean, really nice to see the big Rel engage, but like you talked about, the missteps leading up to it, they were plentiful. And that's just one of many team fights that we're going to see. Again, with the objectives next coming up in less than a minute, we've got the next dragon approaching rapidly. JDG were able to secure the first one with some great macro play, but this time, I'm not splitting as much focus with the top side of the map since they've got a little wiggle room till Rift Herald spawns.
Sasa and Xiaoxu do have teleport here. Looking at our mid laners, the Scout's going to have not only the Tibbers, he's going to look to potentially teleport back. Completing these first items, for me, is going to make or break whether or not this fight is feasible here for JDG. Seems like a Malignance is on the cards if Scout can get a recall in and find a timer. XQW not having that flash, I think, is very dangerous against what JDG are showing.
Xavier does go for a small trade, and I understand the feeling behind it. If you can chunk out Peyz, you can get yourself and your team a chance to get this dragon. YCX ready for the engage. Climber does go for it first, though, forcing Peyz out of the fight. And Shuo playing frontline along with Shun is again letting Peyz walk back into this one. Sivir's going to be able to lifesteal off the wave, but up in the top side, Xiaoxu looks for a solo kill under the tower. Sasu is going to go down. And it's a nice play that ultimately is a trade 1-for-1 along the top side, leaving JDG 4v4.
Okay, so Scout did finish the Malignance. I think this is still a strong face of power that JDG can play for. The Alistar is also great at being able to remove members. Xavier is now moving over towards the bot side. LG are not going to be able to grab this objective, even with the trade 1-for-1. Xiaoxu ends up losing out on his teleport as well. It actually teleported back into the lane. So, will mean that Sauce is going to miss out on a little bit of experience and is going to allow for Scout to take over this wave instead.
XQW teleports back into the mid lane as well while we're tracking the cooldowns, and that might be the way that LGD strike back, is using this to then end up going.
He cancels it with the W. Oh, okay. Sasa, this is a good death, brother. This is you might miss out on a full wave here. So that doesn't feel great. But you stop the teleport, and this York will now have this available to them for the next 3.5-4 minutes over their lane opponent. So let's see if LGD can actually use this to their advantage. They do grab a turret here for Scout, who is only continuing to climb in gold here, and I think really exercising his expertise over the newer mid laner in XQW.
Engaged by YCX onto Shun. Reaper's wall leaves Shuo isolated with YCX, really. Xiaoxu on the other side doesn't seem to mind being alone. Does ultimately get taken down, but it is more than enough time for JDG to come in and clean up Xavier.
All right, they got the dragon for themselves. They're not going to be able to push in on this wave. They have 2 grubs. How much damage can it get onto this turret? XQW, quite honestly, pretty useless in that last fight. And for JDG, layering the CC, and I mean, Xiaoxu just died the play before this and comes back and is an absolute raid boss.
Yeah, I mean, Renekton at this stage in the game is naturally going to be quite scary, but it's weird to see him be as effective as Do you want to explain this to me?
I don't think I have to explain this. I think this is just a jungle taxi. We're taking it back to my Grom.
I'm sitting here like, what is the macro strategy for employing? Realistically, Huber.
How many jungler friends do you have?
I don't.
Have they? So you've never been experienced or been bathed in the holy waters that is Netflix and Grom. It's tried and true.
Explains why he was rushing over there.
Yeah.
Well, back in this team fight, I mean, Xiaoxu lost.
Absolutely demolished this fight. I mean, yeah, it was I think an untimely ultimate there from XQW who tried to split this fight. This Talia is going nowhere fast right now, and with how much we've been kind of pressuring and kind of looking towards mid lane, Scout and Shun can, quite honestly, very easily simplify the game plan here for JDG. Give setup for your carries and allow for players like Xiaoxu who are already commanding a lead to dominate their lane.
You know, one of the first things that you mentioned when we were in the draft was the Weaver's walls and who's going to get on top of Talia. And in a weird way, XQW has answered both of those questions. He's getting himself into the enemy team. The Weaver's walls are really just helping that out. It has been, I'll say, difficult to execute. Maybe we'll have a few more times some redemption ultimates in the future, but as of right now,
it's tough.
Yeah, talking about good news stories on JDG, however, Xiaoxu playing very well on the Renekton. Peyz scaling up well on the Sivir. How are you feeling about the Annie right now?
Annie's fine. This looks to be a Rylai's second item, which we talked about how low range a lot of this game is going to be. I think the slow is going to give him a little bit more power. South's getting 1v1. Great time for us to do this cast call here. He's going to take down the Tibbers. Tibbers is not as powerful as the Maiden, as we've seen. Obviously, Bear versus Throne Woman seems like it's fine.
JDG, after throwing their toys at the Yorick, are going to re-invade their own jungle. Looking for a chance to contest the red buff that is already gone. Nice takeaway. And Climber gets out. We're really waiting on the next objectives, of course, to let these teams orchestrate plays around, and that's going to be the Otacon coming up in 5 seconds. Just a minute from then, though, we will have the next dragon, Hextech, on the board. So if the play gets delayed a little while, we could see a split objective situation.
All right, is Savior going to find a recall here? Because I'm looking at something, Dia.
Tell me.
What's going on in the 80 carry position?
I mean, not a whole lot out.
40 CS lead here for Peyz. And already has the IE and the Yuntals. This is a massive spike for him. And there we go. We found that timer here for Savior to get the recall. Rageblade Kraken Slayer has to be where LGD finds strength. At this point in the game, if they're not able to find a win, I'm hard pressed to think of an area where JDG are going to lose in fights. They need to be able to win around Savior, which has been kind of the strategy all season long.
And that's going to require vision. We talked about vision being super important when contesting this JDG roster that are relying on things like Annie and honestly a sort of awkward front to back, maybe some flanks from Xiaoxu to disrupt the backline of LGD. It's critical that right now LGD are I want to say invading. They're re-entering the river and placing down some awards that will let them take this next fight.
Oh, Xiaoxu is just trying to force right now.
I think he might be able to get this as well. I mean, his confidence is inspiring me. Yorick, a formidable opponent, but against Xiaoxu, it's not going to last long.
Now they can't even make this player on the top side. It was supposed to be a point of strength here. Savior is now down towards the bottom side. Oh no, can he get it? He's going to get in range. He should be able to find this kill.
Oh no!
Ah!
We got it. We got it, but at what cost and what is happening here? It looks like Savior is not the only AD carry just running around on his own. Peyz stops by to clear the mid wave. Otacon is a mess. We're a little bit lost. Savior ends up re-engaging on Peyz. Might actually find the kill, and the Void Seeker gets spell shielded. Close enough. Close enough.
Teleports are still going down, and this Otacon is now at half. This is going to become a smite fight, and I'm looking at Dwo. No headbutt available to push out Climber.
Shun waiting for his chance to re-enter. Baby Cage gets thrown out. He is pushed completely out of the Otacon, and Schwo seems to get out alive. Never mind. XQW snaps him up. LGD grab the Otacon. So much went wrong there. So much.
Dude, what is JDG doing? This is another objective setup where they have free reign. Xiaoxu solo kills his opponent. Kaisa shows on the bottom lane wave. And somehow, JDG are unable with 3v5 numbers here. I mean, we can take a look at this fight. What I want to look at, and I'm going to pull up the minimap.
Tell me.
Look at where the teammates are. He's going to take... here's a pen. There are 3 members of LGD controlling this side. We're going to get tied.
We are right back into the fight. It's a fight on JDG's side. Schwo looking for a re-engage, but Shun already found his prey. Climber is down. Schwo goes for the Hextech flank, while Xiaoxu is in the middle of the team. Peyz is going to get taken down by Savior, assassinated by the Kaisa, but Xiaoxu does not care one bit on the Renekton. He is a monster, and he and Shun flank on the other side. Well, ultimately, Scout picks up the last kill. JDG wiped that fight to take the Hextech.
We came in with a head-to-head that was talking about the bottom lanes, but honestly, tonight, Dia, the solo lanes for JDG have really stepped up their game, and I think made the gulf in experience known here. Xiaoxu versus Sasa has been Xiaoxu favored in these last 2 games, and Scout, again, showing that expertise. Shun taking control. We thought maybe this was going to be a flank from YCX, but they missed on that Shatter Strike. And this should have been their opener here. Climber right into the backline. And honestly, with Savior, he should be in this fight and dominating. But they get to take Climber out. And while Savior is just ripping apart this front line, it takes way too long for the rest of LGD to get in line and follow where Savior is.
We asked the question at the start about how are you going to access the backline? How are you going to get on top of Savior, on top of XQW? And the answer becomes very clear, because Xiaoxu is running at Sasu, and Sasu's just running away. There's no front line here. There's no peel for this backline. Renekton gets to walk at them, and that's it.
I gotta say, the mid canyon is absolutely insane. It's only 500 gold, but when it comes to game impact, immeasurable, an innumerable amount of damage here from Annie. And we've just not seen this ultimate from XQW really have enough impact. Now, with both summoner spells missing from them, I do think that this advantages JDG. Talia not having that flash just means that she is free open range here for Jindong to find.
Seems like we'll be doing that in the next few minutes as well. Positioning around Baron already set up, and you know Xiaoxu is looking for the 1v1 bot side. Sasu underneath the turret, and Schwo, known for his early engages, is going to go for one that is nearly perfect. The Goldilocks engage, however, may have gone wrong as Climber goes for the counter engage, and Savior's right into the back line. Scout peeling backwards, does manage to find his trade though. Savior goes down, YCX is isolated, and this fight goes in the favor of JDG, assuming they're able to find that last kill, which they should.
What is Savior doing, man? Savior is trying to squeeze every little bit. This actually becomes advantage towards LGD. This fight was prolonged, it was protracted, and they get numbers advantage now on the top side of the map. It'll turn into no Baron, but
That's my bad.
If Savior doesn't kill himself at the beginning of this fight, that could have been Baron for them.
Does that count as like a good Weaver's Wall in your book, since it did change the fight?
I guess, but like, if that's the quality of Weaver's Wall we're gonna get, just put the Annie in the pack.
Yeah,
you should just be playing these simpler champions, XQW. Yeah. Let's get some Azir games. Ask JDG, please don't ban Yone, please. I'm begging you.
Stop banning Azir too.
Yeah, on one hand, I want to look at a replay of that because I want to just note Savior kind of sending himself in. But I don't want to have the displeasure of seeing a large port, like 80% of that fight played again in front of me. Not just for us. I know it's very selfish.
That'll be different.
But for the fans. The fans deserve better.
Yeah. I can cover your eyes. I can't cover them.
Yeah.
That's...
I can ask my producer to turn off the feed, but that, I think, defeats the purpose. Please don't do that.
That seems counterproductive.
Yeah, especially for an LPL English stream. But we're seeing now both teams start to jockey for position. Right now it is LGD in favor, but you have this Sivir. Mini wave is gone.
I've seen this engagement before. Shwo headbutt pulverizes here. Like, as soon as he's in the river with somebody else, he's gonna go for it. Already searching. Scout's the one that pulls the trigger on the engage. Climber heads for the hills, pulling out the Cyclone just to save himself. And that leaves LGD with no engage tools for this Baron. JDG know what they gotta do.
And now Dragon spawns in a minute. Really important time here. Teleport from Sasa. There's going to be Hextech portals coming on through. I think this Baron is gone, but can LGD get back in?
Shin's getting ready for the smite. Xiaoxu on the flank, however, causes a big problem. Peyz could be engaged on by YCX, and he will be flashing away. Peyz survives for now, but he's jumped on by Savior. Savior picks up the kill, but gets traded out instead. It is 1-for-1, 80 carry for 80 carry, as JDG fight a war on two fronts, but it is Xiaoxu who is winning his all the way, flashing right on top of YCX. He takes him out, and is left with just Sasu and Climber in the pit.
XUW can teleport back into this play, but this went from a Baron that was supposed to be JDG's to now it being LGD's. Xiaoxu's level 16. He does not have Dominus. I cannot see a world where he wins a 1v3. A fight that should have been theirs. LGD clamber back there, and they're ignoring the gold lead that is exhibited by this Renekton.
That fight, I hope we get a replay of.
That one, yes.
Yeah, because this was really a difficult fight to track, especially with Xiaoxu doing as well as he was. And we get it.
All right, so we're fighting away from the Renekton. I think a good strategy here for LGD. We talked about Dwo sitting in the river. You are half HP as this Alistar. You have to be very careful about when and where you find your HP. A masterful flank from YCX. Catches Peyz barely, but I just think that Climber coming back into this fight is so important. And I don't know if it was a great ultimate from XQW, but him repositioning alongside him, that's good enough for me. I'll take it.
Yeah, this is what I was missing, because it was so far off screen, but was the who gets on top of Talia question being answered, but in the favor of LG. Nobody was really able to, even to finish off that last 100 HP. And now LGD managed to get a turret. It is traded for a dragon that JDG secure, but a few more turrets are going to go down before this Baron buff is up. LGD are going to collect a lot of standing gold.
Okay. They at least got mid tier 2. So they're able to push mid. That does go over to Talia. And Savior getting very close to 4 items on this Kaisa. We noted the item differential between the 280 carries before, where Peyz had found an advantage with that early coal buy. And now Savior, with multiple fight wins, starting to become a poke machine that JDG will never answer into. We were saying, okay, Talia could potentially be that issue, and she has a ton of HP from Rylai's and from Seraph's, but if Savior can just throw these Void Seekers out, no one from JDG interacts with them. But that requires for LGD to play a slower fight, a slower game for them, and that's going to require poise, which we haven't seen.
Savior has been laser focused on the back line. Killer instincts. Very much saved. Assassinating Peyz. Taking out Scout at times, but very rarely have been used to escape Xiaoxu or reposition in an awkward way to play front to back. It is almost always about the assassination. So we'll keep our eyes on Savior as he picks up a Rabadon's for him.
That is crazy. This guy does so much damage. If he can get a plasma proc down on you, you're going to lose about a quarter of your HP, especially if you are a tankier member. That amount of damage is unavoidable here. And there's very little magic resist coming on from this team. Very focused on Climber getting to the back line and even trying to stop some of Savior's auto attacks, but we gotta say, from the draft, we were saying this is very LGD favored. The early game looked good for JDG, and the saving grace for them is in 3 minutes time. Can they get the Hextech Soul, and will it be enough to mount what is becoming an unstoppable lead, even with Xiaoxu doing well individually?
I mean, it'll be about 5k gold soon, especially if you're able to win a fight, find a singular pick who is covering just around the right mark, where LGD should be able to close this out. With JDG fighting for vision control just around their base. I'm having trouble seeing how they're going to contest the Hextech Dragon. 2 minutes is a long amount of time, but at the same time, I mean, we have seen it go by like that, especially the way that LGD are then contesting for said vision around top side. It's looking really good. Sasu walking up to scout, could get picked off here, but he knows it. Nice awareness.
Yeah, I just want to highlight for everybody, look at the vision line here. JDG cannot push any further. It is really important with the timer in 2 minutes at the top right of your screen. Can they find some kind of angle for themselves to make sure that they can, I don't know, like fix the side of the map or get a TP flank available for either Xiaoxu or for Scout?
Yeah, Xiaoxu pushing out the top side right now is going to be a big focus for the next fight for myself as a frontliner, and we'll see what sort of engages Scout is able to cook up. I love that LGD are re-entering, re-establishing that same vision line that you pointed out earlier. 1 minute left, and JDG are trapped in their base. The exception is topside, and that exception is getting engaged on. We've got a fight between mid and top lane. And the question of how you get on top of Talia is especially difficult to answer right now as a solo Renekton with no help on the way. That is absolutely going to be a pick. Xiaoxu overextending, being taken down only 1 minute before the dragon.
Look, he can teleport into this play. I think that timer so important. There's a 7-second desync between him coming up and the dragon being available. But JDG cannot control these waves. The Sivir ended up going towards bottom side. No control of the mid lane. And now we look back at the minimap here and look at all of these flank scores available for JDG here. This is going to make or break their fight. And I gotta say, Dia, they not only have to win the Dragon Smite fight, but they also need to win the next fight afterwards. Otherwise, the soul goes down, but they lose their entire base.
Yeah, losing control of these waves, like you talked about, very, very difficult. But these flank wards, if they win the next fight, it will have all been worth it. It is all going to come down to those greens that the observers just highlighted, and what Teleport is able to make happen around these objectives. Engage on Shuo. Makes things tough. Unbreakable will gets popped, but fortunately he does not.
All right, JDG, they're just going to give this up. No way for them to move in. They are not in position to contest. Honestly, Gia, I think the window is gone. LGD getting that one of those dragons at the very beginning of the game may have saved them here in this series. Now they can move over straight into the Baron, take over the mid wave, and they still have Sasa with this Maiden. XUW is going to now cut them off. They're looking for Shun. Now they have no way of stopping JDG from entering into the pit and getting a little spicy with it.
Last one taken away by Shun is, now like we talked about, he does have that lack of mobility on the Xin to actually cross the rock wall between he and the objective. But LGD seem unconcerned with the Baron. Xiaoxu sort of creating an organic flank as LGD re-enter the jungle. Vision line so clear for LGD. Nothing past the river for JDG, especially on this side of the map.
I can't believe we're in a situation where LGD are going to slowly cook JDG out of this game.
It doesn't feel real.
I mean, Savior, again, being such a huge portion of this team. He's the only veteran and only remaining piece from 2024 for LGD. Basically rewarding some of their LGD youth program and other LDL prospects. And while Climber had in and out stints throughout the year, this LGD team really needs to prove that this last year in the LPL can materialize into something.
Vision established for JDG and LGD. Look for an engage. It's YCX's time to shine. He needs to find some sort of isolation, some sort of damage onto Peyz. Savior searching for the assassination, but YCX gets a little over anxious and gets picked off. Now it's front to back where Sivir really thrives, and Peyz is going to go down. Xiaoxu unkillable in the front line, and JDG win the fight 2 kills to none.
There is that poise that we were talking about. I mean, YCX gets completely obliterated before the start of this. Climber, no ultimate. They do have Talia wall if they really need to get into this pit, but such a dangerous ask here for LGD. Love it. I love that I got a caster curse right before the Baron happens.
All good.
It was bound to happen. It's been 9 months. I'm destined to have a few of them here. But, I mean, seeing Xiaoxu get right back into the back line, just start to assert himself. JDG, I don't know what we're looking for. We're here to push our waves, brother men. We're here to push these waves out. Let's use the Baron that we have for the next 2.5 minutes, because this timer is going to overlap for that dragon.
It's nice to see Scout moving towards the bot side with that in mind, making sure that the waves, at least immediately surrounding the dragon, are still there. So let's take a look at this replay and how the fight went JDG's way.
I think it is important for LGD to hold this corridor. What I don't like from YCX here is looking for any kind of engagement. We're here to poke, let Sivir find any kind of damage. This is the flash from Peyz, which is going to be important in fights to come, but look at where Xiaoxu is. Nobody from LGD want to be dealing with this, and with XQW also losing his flash, I think it is very, very important to see how LGD play out these next few moments, because they can withstand the Baron. And the Dragon, I mean, the Sivir clearing ways is difficult, but you do have ways of being able to play the game.
It's tough looking at that as well, because YCX is so laser focused on eliminating Peyz in the same way as Savior has been. But the CC landing onto Peyz, even just a bit of it, doesn't really matter because nobody else is being hit by it.
Yep.
So Savior can't just jump in and assassinate. That's the real difference here, and it's something that LGD are going to have to correct extremely quickly. They cannot pull off another play like that, not just because they don't have the ability right now, they don't have YCX's flash, but because if they do in the future, the game is going to be over immediately. Right now, JDG have absolutely clawed their way back. The gold lead that was LGD's before has slowly evaporated to the point that it is just a puddle. And now that dragon that you were talking about is coming up. And that dragon still means Hextech Soul is on the table for JDG.
40-minute game. We've had 2 Barons already. Obviously, Otacon a long time ago going over to LGD. You see that JDG are starting to get ready. Pushing in that bottom wave. They got access into mid. Sivir is going to make their lives so much easier from JD Gaming. And how we see them enter, it seems like JDG are going to have to enter through the top side. Xiaoxu, this is very early.
Xiaoxu is entering the Piltover way, right through the Hex gates, taking out the Maiden early. A nice bump to JDG's team fight ability, but no Renekton ult is going to hurt a little bit.
Yeah,
Black and Dominus.
I think the Dominus is really important, just that ability to get extra health on a dime when you need it. And while Maiden is very important here for Sasa, he still has a lot of tools to be able to play. Look at how they're playing around the vision. This is the only vision, a toggle from our observers, showing what JDG see. Climber, they know he's nowhere near in the area. They do not need to be worried.
JDG have all the information they could possibly need there. Having had vision on the jungler the entire time.
Okay.
Out comes the Weaver's Wall. Splits the team fight really well. Counter engaged from Zhuo. Just keeps YCX from being able to close them in. YCX gets isolated. Scout still fighting Climber on the top side, and Climber engages with the Cyclone. Immediately exhausted. Into the backline, keeping Scout and Peyz honest. Finally gets popped into GA, and Peyz runs into the front line with Xiaoxu to try and finish off the team, but Xiaoxu gets taken down. XQW into Zanya's right now, but Peyz will take him out, and it's a JDG slow but steady win in this team fight.
Oh my god, Sasa's probably just gonna have to teleport out. Scout, does he get the stun? He does. It's a final kill and a full ace for JDG. Where was a fight that we didn't get to see. Savior get into the backline. Climber playing a little too much in the back. He was away from the Dragon Pit. It gave a free smite over to JDG, and that was the soul. And most likely now the game. There's no death timers in time here for LGD.
Yeah, we did talk about the next team fight you whiff. Likely means game, and we are seeing JDG have the exact same thing in mind. No chance to play the game, unfortunately, for YCX, and that'll be 1 and 2 Nexus Towers. JDG going up 2-0 against LGD and putting themselves that much closer to playoffs.
42 minutes, and we said from this draft, if LGD couldn't win this game, it was going to look tough going further into the series. They have more limited champion pools thanks to them playing in Group Nirvana, having fewer games than their opponents. And just from an eye test and what we're seeing, there are moments here, again, where LGD look better than their opponents, but execution has not been there, and I think some of their members from LGD are kind of letting them down here in this important game.
I think it is really difficult to coordinate in this as well, because the composition that we saw should have been from LGD. Really good at isolating specific targets and being untouchable with the Talia, when realistically, because of the way that mid-game went for JDG, I think LGD really felt like they had to be the ones moving forward, trying to take engages, and Talia didn't have the chance to play at a distance.
I think a very perfect, like, I guess, package of how that happened, or maybe the feeling that you're describing, is just watching Savior throughout this game. Like, the first 25 minutes, he's ulting forward on any individual target and trying to squeeze a kill. I don't think that's necessarily right, and we saw that multiple times. He would go down and trade for it, and it becomes a trade that's favorable for JDG. I don't know if maybe LGD are feeling a little nervous. It obviously is potentially their last series of the year, but I expect a little bit more from especially a player like Savior. And I'll be honest, the mid gap was kind of disgusting this game.
You're liking Scout this series. You were talking about him a lot in Game 1 on the Rise. This Annie game got a lot of credit from you as well. Yep. I mean, it is clear that he's outputting not only a lot of damage, but a lot of utility for the team in this fight, especially in that last Dragon engagement, where he was tracking Climber the entire time.
Yeah, I want to say Scout is playing well, but I think his opponent is not. Like, it's a battle of two things. Like, two things can be true at the same time, and XQW has not been a player that has been super consistent throughout the year. Most of the time when XQW has played, he's had really, really hit or miss games. I think of his Yone as one of his best champions, but there have been times on Azir, on Rise, where he has made, in my mind, game-losing plays for his team. And while there isn't one moment that I can maybe pinpoint here for his Talia, I think the lack of impact is something that XQW and the rest of LGD are going to be feeling in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing for them, they can't draft it again. I am going to be happy to see
that. Yeah,
true. Yeah, maybe the Yone gets picked up. I would really like to, especially if this is going to be LGD's last game of the year. Selfishly like to see the Yone be picked up because it is something that is so signature to their mid laner. And you really don't see that many other places. A lot of times, players with specialties like that, it is easy to take them out, but we did see JDG considering, hey, are we going to let XQW have this, or what? And maybe for Game 3, they let them.
Yeah, it's tough when you have kind of specific champion specialists, especially in Fearless Draft. You don't get access to very many champions, and usually in best of fives, you're going to have a lot of time to be able to scale. LPL Gold Graph of all time, LGD get back in, but are unable to
in this specific best of 5 to be looking down the barrel of a 3-0 and going, I'm really excited for this. But the development of the roster, like you talked about, being non-linear, I think that this is still a team that has shown some really interesting and nice moments throughout this series alone, because the early game went really well for them in game 1. The mid-late game went really well for them in game 2. They aren't able to put these pieces together. They aren't able to close out games because of them. Being able to find advantages like that against JDG, even a JDG that maybe hasn't been in peak form this split, is still something to be really proud of in your first year out of LDL.
Agreed. This last fight we didn't get a replay of because it was basically the end of the game, but really strong vision control from JDG, from Scout as well, playing Human War to find Climber. He never got into the pit. It opens up the Hextech Soul, and like we said, you take that Hextech Soul, if you win that fight, imagine the game has to end within the next few moments afterwards. So MVP, I agree, Xiaoxu probably has earned himself. I could see a Scout. Could see a Scout MVP too.
Scout. Could see a Scout. I think that Scout was kind of robbed in game 1 of that, so I wouldn't be too upset about seeing it. And he has been really good, especially about with these mid laners that bring a lot of CC to the table at actually controlling the fight in the way that you would expect and hope for.
All right. Pocket Sand Shun. Okay. All right.
Oh, shit.
There we
W.
go. I was very, very worried there. I know we both were. we were like, oh.
Yeah.
But Xiaoxu does earn it. A very impressive performance, not only in the Renekton, but this entire season, joining JDG here in split number 3. Unsure, considering he was coming off of the Royal Never Give Up team that got completely eliminated from LPL and relegated down into the LDL. So glad to see that it is working out for him, and another playoff berth potentially on the cards here if they can win one more game.
Yeah, I mean, he has really been a rock for the squad, and I think we've got a lot to look forward to from him, not just here, but again, with the third game on the horizon, potentially in playoffs as well. He's on the come up and actually put on some carry pants there in this second game. We'll find out what happens in the third. Will Xiaoxu come back? Will we see Scout maybe grab an MVP? Will we see LGD take a game? We'll find out after this.